Okay, so for my story, I had to include the words bench, computer, hairy, Egypt, and person. Now, I did get a little bit carried away, but the story's title is The Mystery Tour. Mel was bored. After years of pounding the pavement in all sorts of weather and getting blisters on her feet, it was time to hang up the post bag and retire. Over the years, she had delivered millions of letters and parcels, and many of her regulars thought she was a lovely person. No, scrap that. They thought she was awesome. They would make cakes for her and let her stroke their cat as it purred round her feet, and she always closed their gate. But all things come to an end at some point, so with lions aplenty and breakfast in bed, it was time to rest those feet and enjoy life instead. It was great at first, but after a while the freedom became a bit boring. Sometimes, when you have had the same routine day in and day out for years and years, having so much free time is difficult to manage. One day, after a really long dog walk, she had an idea. I need a holiday. When her husband, John, came home, she began talking so fast that he thought her head might fall off. "Slow down," he said. "You're going so fast I can't understand a word you are saying. We are going on holiday. I am bored and need some sun. So pack your bag because we're off to Egypt in the morning."
Ding! That's one word.
Sun cream packed and hats on their heads.
Me too.
When the alarm went off, they jumped out of bed. It took all day, but went in a flash. From rain to sun, wellies to flip-flops, it wasn't long before they felt sand under their feet. "Ah, this is the life," Mel said, while drinking grape juice as the sun began to set. Morning came and adventure was calling, so they booked a tour of the pyramids and a trip down the Nile. The fun had just started and made them both smile. As they waited for the tour, John and Mel went for a stroll. There was so much they had to explore. They watched the hustle and bustle of the market through the window of a cafe as they drank tea and ate cake before taking in a few other sights as their pyramid time slot grew ever closer. Suddenly, Mel gave John a nudge. "Hey, John, do you see what I'm seeing? Or was there something in that tea?" she said. "If you mean a camel who looks rather sad, sat on that bench there, then yes,
Ding!
I am seeing what you are," he replied.
There's the third.
"Sad? Looks like he has the hump to me," Mel said, giggling. Both thought it was actually just a statue and thought it would make a great photo to capture this memory. Imagine their surprise when the camel put down their map as they approached and said, "May I help you?" John and Mel froze, mouths wide open. "Did your parents not teach you that it is rude to stare?" the camel added. Hello," John responded, followed by, "Why do you look so sad?" Not sure why, but it just came out. As it turns out, the camel was called Camilla, and she had been sat on a bench for years, looking at a very old map. You see, she had been separated from her owner many moons ago. In fact, so many moons that poor Camilla had lost count, but she was determined to find him again. With the map being so old, John and Mel were unable to assist. Time was ticking. The tour was soon to start. Wishing Camilla good luck in her search, they set off. Both felt sorry for poor Camilla, forgetting the weirdness of having a conversation with a talking camel, like this kind of thing happens every day. What they did not know was this would not be the only weird thing they would experience today. The tour began, and the guide was explaining all sorts of interesting information and facts as they entered one of the pyramids. Inside was dusty, the lighting was dull, and it began to feel a little chilly as they got deeper and deeper into the pyramid. John began to feel a bit uncomfortable. Despite being a mountain of a man, he was a big cuddly bear, really. "Come on, John, we're falling behind," Mel said worriedly. But it was too late. They couldn't hear, let alone see, the rest of the tour group anymore. They were on their own. It's a tour, they thought. It can't be that hard to get out. We'll just keep following these lights. As they were not here thousands of years ago, were they? Ambling on, they continued to follow the lights, when they began to hear a rumbling noise. "Maybe it's the Pyramid Cafe," John and Mel said in unison. As they walked, the noise got louder, and when they came across a gap in the rock, decided to investigate the source of the strange humming and whirring. Behind the rock, it was surprisingly getting brighter. That can't be right, they thought. We're getting deeper inside. But they followed the passageway anyway. Nearing the end appeared to be a doorway, which the light was coming from. Imagine their surprise when, peeking round the entrance, they saw what looked like someone on a computer, sat in front of a big screen, looking at a map. "Excuse me," Mel said. "We got separated from our tour and seem to be a little lost. Would you be so kind to point us in the right direction?" she added. Slowly the chair turned and a bandaged arm appeared, pointing in an upwards direction, as if pointing to the stars. Wow! They use actors to make it an authentic experience, they thought, although a computer in a pyramid thousands of years old was a strange thing to see. But never mind, everyone has one these days. The figure on the chair was now fully visible and made the two tourists jump. And if it was an actor, had clearly not shaved or had a haircut for quite some time, as it was so incredibly hairy.
Ding! There's another. There's the fifth one.
Covered from head to toe in dirty and worn bandages, the figure began speaking in a language neither John or Mel could understand, so they used a translator on the computer, which on close inspection looked more futuristic than any computer they'd ever seen before. It turns out that the figure was actually a mummy that had been awoken up from their eternal sleep when some friendly alien beings accidentally crash-landed on Earth, near the pyramids, and needed somewhere to hide whilst they repaired their spacecraft so they could return home again. Yep, not weird at all. Just your average, everyday adventure. Anyway, the mummy was looking for his camel, as the curse that had been placed on the mummy could only be lifted if he rode into the desert darkness with the moon on the horizon upon a one-humped steed called Camilla. John and Mel looked at each other and said, "No way, you've got to be kidding." Regaining their composure, the couple indicated that they may just be able to assist this walking first aid box. But they didn't know how to get out. The mummy did, though. In next to no time, John, Mel, and their second weird friend of the day walked out of the pyramid into the Egyptian evening. Well, they couldn't walk out together in daylight, as people don't generally take too kindly to people wearing scary outfits, unless it's Halloween, of course. Camilla was indeed where John and Mel left her, and witnessing the reunion of the mummy and Camilla brought a tear to the eyes of the tourists. It had literally been years in the making. After plenty of thank yous and goodbyes, it was time for Camilla to end the curse and carry the mummy into the desert before the sun began to rise. But as they left, the final strange thing to happen on this strangest of days for John and Mel unfolded before their eyes. Walking into the moonlight, the mummy's bandages began to disappear, to be replaced by fine robes of Egyptian cotton. Camilla became covered in saddlebags and rugs. Suddenly a coin flew from one of the bags and landed at Mel's feet. Picking it up and looking into the distance, she saw what looked like a final wave goodbye before rider and mighty steed completely disappeared. Needless to say, the rest of John and Mel's holiday was far less adventurous. But despite lots of fun, it was soon time to go home. Ah, the coin, I hear you say. Well, it turns out it is thousands of years old and one of the first known currencies ever used. Although they were offered millions for it, they felt it best to return it to Egypt. However, after doing so, everything they touched seemed to turn to gold. The end.